Hey class, how's it hanging? This week we're going to be doing some more evaluating of expressions, but we're also going to talk about this thing called the distributive property, which is something that's useful for you to know in algebra, and it's useful for you to know just in general math. But first, we're going to talk about that invisible multiplication we talked about last lesson. So you may recall that when we have a number, like 5, nice and cozy beside a variable, like x, with nothing in between them, this means multiplication. It's 5 times x. And with that right there, you can see why we do this. If we put the multiplication sign in, it would get confused with the x. And so we're lazy and we just leave it out entirely. Same thing as if we have two things in brackets next to each other. That also means multiplication. So brackets around 5, brackets around 3 is going to be equal to, that's a wiggly 5 times 3. The general rule being, if there's nothing there, assume multiplication. And then we can mix and match. We can have a number on its own, all cozied up next to some brackets, and that also means multiplication. So this is going to be 5 times 4 plus 1. And those of you looking ahead, you'll see that that's our next question. What is 5 times 4 plus 1 equal to? Well, you might say, Miss Miller, that's hardly even a question. I know BEDMAS. I know my orders of operations. I can do this easy peasy because I know that I have to do the brackets first. And you would go 4 plus 1 is 5. And then, oh, we have some invisible multiplication here. That's going to be times. And so 5 times 5 is 25. All right. But what if I'm asking you to expand it? What if I'm not asking you to do BEDMAS? What if I'm just asking you which of these 3 options is that equal to? So take a second, think of a guess in your brain. Pause the video if you really want to think about it. But let's evaluate each of these and see which one it actually is equal to. So we have 5 times 4 plus 1. We do multiplication before addition, so we do 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21. All right, so far so good. Obviously that's not equal to 25, so it's not that one. All right, 5 times 4 plus 5 times 1. We have 2 multiplications here, and they're not touching, so we can do them both first. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. Don't forget that plus sign. And then 20 plus 5 is 25. That one's good. Then our last one here, 5 times 4 times 1. We just go left to right because they're both times. 5 times 4 is 20 times 1. 20 times 1 is just 20. So that one's also no good. And so, hopefully, you believe me and I've proven to you that 5 times 4 plus 1 is actually equal to 5 times 4 plus 5 times 1. And there's actually sort of a general rule for that. Whenever you have something multiplied to something in brackets, it's going to be equal to the number outside times the first thing. So that's 5 times 4. And then our plus sign. And then we want the number on top times the second thing. So that's 5 times 1. And you can see that that's the same as our actual correct one there. Sometimes they call this feeding the chickens. You take the one that's on the outside and you multiply it to everything that's inside the brackets. You add them all up and that's your answer. And that's what the distributive property is. And it makes a lot more sense when we're working with variables. So here's our example. We're going to expand 2 times a plus 3. We can't just do BEDMAS here because we don't know what a is. They haven't told us what a is, so we can't add 3 to it. And so it's just asking us to do the distributive property on this and get rid of the brackets, essentially. So what happens is we times 2 to the first thing, and then we're also going to times 2 to the second thing. we're going to basically times it to everything inside the brackets. So 2 times a, we don't know what a is, so I'm just going to write that as 2a. And then 2 times positive 3 is positive 6. And that's it. That's all we're wanting from you there. 2a plus 6 is what that would be. The second one here, expand and simplify. We're going to do this the exact same way, but we're going to end up with some things that we can squish together at the end of it. So let's do our distributive property. We're going to have to multiply 6 to the first thing, and then we're going to have to multiply 6 to the second thing. 6 times v is just 6v. Alright. 6 times positive 3 is positive 18. And then our plus 5, we're just going to bring that in. And this is where the simplify part comes in. Because, well, plus 18 plus 5, why don't we just add those things together? Make it easy on us. So that's 6v we're going to leave alone, because nothing else has a v in it. But we can do 18 plus 5, and it is 23. So that would be your answer here. If you find that a formula is helpful for you to remember the distributive property, and I'm actually going to go back up, and I'm going to put this over here. If you like a little formula, you could always think of it as A times B plus C is equal to, and I'll do my little arrows here, A times B plus, ooh, I already used this color. Let's do orange. A times C. You can remember it like that, or you can remember that we need to multiply it to everything inside. And the metaphor with feeding the chickens, I think, is just that you need to feed all your chickens. I don't know. Let's do some more practice. I think we can finish this in one video. I might be a little ambitious with that, but we'll see. So for example here, what is 6 times d plus 5 if d equals 2? So we can solve this in two ways. One, we put that 2 in there right away. So we know d equals 2. So we do 6 times 2 plus 5. We think of bed mass. This is 6 times 7. And 6 times 7 is 42. Alternatively, you can do the distributive property first. So you can look at this. 6 times d plus 5. 6 times d is 6d. 6 times 5 is 30. And then you could put the 2 in for d. So then you could say 6 times 2 plus 30. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 30. And look at that. We get the same answer. And you might be thinking, Miss Miller, you're whack. Why would we ever do it the long way? You probably wouldn't, but you could. And so that's why I'm showing it to you. It'll be important for algebra later when we don't know what D is. It'll be important for that. I'm just getting you warmed up to it. Hopefully it works. Who knows? All right. This is basically the same as evaluating the other expressions, except for I'm just giving you a hard one. I'm just giving you a hard, long one, and I want to do an example of it. So, 2 times x plus 4 all over 5y plus 2 if x equals 1 and y equals 3. So let's put those in there. We have 2, x equals 1, so 1 plus 4 all over 5 times 3, because that's y is 3, plus 2. And then we have to bed mass this one out. So we do brackets first. So I'm going to put an equal sign here. 1 plus 4 is going to be equal to 5. And we'll leave the bottom the same. Now we can do our multiplication. And you might think, okay, well, this fraction is division. But when we have something on the top and something on the bottom, we always want to finish those first before we divide at the end, when it's written like a fraction. So 2 times 5 is going to be 10, over 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 2. And you might be tempted to do that division next, but you can't, because we still have things that we need to do on the bottom. So 10's good, 10's done. 15 plus 2 is 17. And then if you wanted to keep going, you would do this division and you'd get a decimal. Let's get it just to be on the safe side. 10 divided by 17 is 0.59. Same steps. This is just a longer one and a harder one. Another way that you might see expressions is in a table like this. So all this is telling us is that here are our values for b. So b equals 2, we're going to do it. B equals 0, we're going to do it. And b equals, did I say 2? -2, 0, and 2. So it's basically hiding 3 questions in one. You know math teachers like to do that. So we're basically going to do this for each. So first one, b equals -2. So we put -2 in where b was. -2 plus 4 is the same as 4 minus 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And then 6 minus 8 is -2. Would you look at that? New color, slightly different blue. Now we put 0 in. And I'll move down so that you can see my work here. -8. Brackets first, 0 plus 4 is just 4. And then we have that hidden multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. And then 12 minus 8 is 4. And then we have one more to do. Phew, we're almost done. Let's see if I can fit this one in right here. 3 times 2 plus 4 minus 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. 3 times 6 is 18. And 18 minus 8 is 10. So that's how you would do one that's just written in a table like that. It's just a different way that we can hide more questions in one and that we can smush things together. Alright. That's all we've got for this lesson, and that's all we've got for this week. It's much more of the same. More evaluating expressions, ones that look a little bit scarier than the ones that I gave you last week. And then also using the distributive property and making sure that we know how that works. Alright, I'll let you go.